You can make revenue pretty easily if you just ask people for money and sell an idea. Take the risk earlier. Who knows what could have been with the other things if I just said, screw it, give me 6 months, and take the risk when you don't have kids. Don't be scared to ask for money. It's whether that's an investment, whether that's a customer, just ask for money. That's fine. The worst you're going to get is a no.
Hey, Troy, I'm super excited to have you join me for this episode of Coffee with Closers.
Samuel, thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Most certainly. I've been kind of watching you from far, and we got to connect. I know you were in enterprise sales for a long time, worked for some large companies like Meta and Semantics and so many other organizations. And you also built and sold you had two successful exits prior to this, and now you're building a brand new company. Can you share with our audience a little bit about your journey of entrepreneurship, how you left the enterprise sales world to go build a tech company?
I guess to kind of bring it all the way back is this whole entrepreneurship thing. I think it's in my blood. Some people are built for it, some people aren't. For example, my stepdad, when I grew up, he owned a vending machine company, and we would have just the surplus of snacks in our pantry all the time. And we lived in a small little new build community. And so what I did was I just took a wagon, I took Pringles and I took Gatorades, wheeled it out to them and sold it for $1 a pop. And that's kind of how I got my toys and everything that I wanted as a 10-year-old kid. So I think I always started, whoa, I can sell something and then I can make money from it and get what I want. But all that to say, that continued throughout my lifetime. In high school, I created a clothing company. In college, I tried to create multiple different things. This most successful one was beard oil, because beards were a big popular thing. And then after that, I graduated, got into the professional world, ended up building 3 different things. 2 of them and they were all side gigs. So all while I was a sales rep. 2 of them were able to get acquired. The third one I just shelved because it was a services company. And then finally, this one that I'm at now, Dimmo, it had the most legs and the most traction. And I feel like it's the one I have to go full time on. So here we are.
Yeah. So for the people that may not know what Dimmo is, can you define what the company does?
Yeah. So in short, it allows you to evaluate software without sales. So we have 130 different technologies, and you can go and watch their demo and learn essentially anything you want about that company in one place.
Yeah. Where did the idea come from?
Yeah, so the idea, because I've been this side gig guy, actually, and I'm sure we'll touch on my whole LinkedIn journey as well, but I was known in the beginning as the LinkedIn side gig guy because I just love building side gigs. I think I love it because I still have the security of a full W-2 income. But Dimmo, I was like on the way home from the gym one day, and I was like, there's got to be a way to pay my mortgage without taking money from my W-2. And so I was like, what if I just go? People want to see demos. That's why they go to a website and fill out a form, because they want to see a demo. It's not because they want to go have a discovery call. It's not because they want to get forced through a sales cycle. It's because they want to see a demo. So I was like, what if I just host demo days, but it's very niche. First demo day that I ever hosted was an ABM demo day, account-based marketing. And so went home the day that I had that thought, reached out to all the ABM tools out there, demand-based, Terminus, 6sense, everything that you can think of out there. And I ended up having 12 companies in day one say, yeah, I'll do this. How much do I have to pay? And I was like, oh crap. I don't know yet. I didn't know I could do this. And I even told people, I was like, I'll drive 100 to 300 registrants to this event. I had no idea what I was going to drive. I just said a number. And so I also didn't know what to charge. In the beginning, I told them all $250. And so and we only took 5 at a time. So it was $1,250. And we ended up doing 2 demo days every month. I ended up never taking a penny from it. It was me. And then I brought on 2 co-founders because I needed help driving registrants. So I brought on 2 co-founders. They helped me drive registrants. And one thing led to another. We realized demos were a hot space, and we said, let's turn this into a marketplace.
Wow, who would have thought there was actually a need for it? I mean, you would think that people don't, obviously marketing companies are responsible for driving registration for demos and webinars and leads, but who would have thought you can actually build a business around just actually bringing people together to do a demo? And then were you able to pay for your, I know you said you couldn't take much money. Were you able to pay for your mortgage without having to tap into your W-2?
No, because at this point, we ended up turning it into a whole LLC, and then the money kept going into the business, and we didn't. At that point, it was beautiful, though. I could have. If anybody wants a side gig out there, you could probably do it right now. But no, never did.
That's crazy. So basically, what were you doing in terms of getting people to show up? Were you doing cold outreach or LinkedIn messaging? How were you getting those attendees?
Yeah, so cold outreach through email, cold outreach through LinkedIn. And then at the time, when I started Dimmo, I had around 1,000 followers on LinkedIn. But again, I only reached out to ABM companies. The second demo day was a sales demo day. The third demo day was a RevOps demo day. The fourth one was a customer success. So I stayed in this go-to-market area. And the reason I did that is because I was well on my journey to becoming a LinkedIn creator, or whatever you want to call it. I honestly hate even calling myself that, but I knew I needed to drive registrants. So I went and reached out to another LinkedIn influencer. At the time, she had 65,000 followers. And I was like, hey, do you want to make side money? Because I'm doing these demo days. I already have, at this time, I had 17 companies that said, yes, I'll pay for it. So I was like, I already have 17 companies saying that they'd pay for doing this. I just need help driving registrants. Do you want to help me? And she was like, yeah, sure. Honestly, the entire idea of demo was like, let's keep this as a side gig and just have fun money. But yeah, so her and I just posting on LinkedIn together and building our brands, like being, I don't know, authentic and ourselves on LinkedIn. That's how we drove registrants. So cold email, cold LinkedIn, and then just using our LinkedIn audience as well.
Yeah, what you're describing is just kind of crazy, right? Some innovative ways to look at getting people to show up to something, right? Because who would have thought maybe 10 years ago when LinkedIn was mostly considered as like your job seekers profile thing, now it's actually becoming where you're building a community, which let's talk about that, because I know you said you were about 10,000, now you're about 32,000, if I'm not mistaken, on your LinkedIn profile, and you're pretty outspoken about what you're building. So tell us a little bit about how you're able to get the attention for this product so early.
Yes, I think a lot of it came down to, at the beginning of 2024. So the beginning of this year, I had, I think, like 6 or 7,000. I was celebrating one of those, a smaller amount, followers, and that's when we started the whole thing. But so we were like, okay, let's do these demo days. And then what happened essentially was, when we said, me and the two co-founders, like, one of them is a CTO. He's a very smart guy, very good engineer. When we said, let's build a marketplace, honestly, the idea was, let's just get companies to pay us for leads and we will make, again, side gig money. This should be really easy. And to answer your question, like, what kind of took us to be like, I guess essentially, like, let's go full time on demo, or let's really like start focusing on demo and see if it works, is the day that we launched, May 15th. We launched with 45 companies. Our goal was to launch with 15 companies. We had 15 paying customers the day that we launched. We launched with 45 companies on the site. And literally within 24 hours, we drove, or 300 companies registered to be on our site, because we just posted on LinkedIn. Like, she made a job announcement. I made a job announcement. I said, I'm founder of Demo. She was like, I'm co-founder of Demo. And it just made headwinds. Like, everyone was like, holy cow, like, this is where B2B is going. Like, being able to actually see and evaluate software and at scale whenever you want without having to jump into sales. I love this. And I think it was just like realizing day one, holy cow, so hundreds and thousands of people were like, this is amazing. I want to see this built out. And then we just ended up creating like fans. But that's kind of how it all happened and how it all shook out.
Yeah, and then how'd you go from that 6,000 to 30,000? What do you think you're doing right on LinkedIn that's getting you that following?
Yeah, so I post twice a day, and this is like a hard and fast rule for me. Actually, I screwed up this Monday. I only posted once, so I post twice a day, and you have to be. There's one of two things on LinkedIn. You got to be very consistent, for sure. And I know it's very cliche, but the one of two things is, you have to be educational or you have to be controversial, one or the other. That's how you get attention on LinkedIn. So your hook has to be essentially like, for example, anybody can post how to book a meeting. That's not that cool. Like, go Google that, right? Go chat GPT that. But nobody can post, not everybody can post, and not everybody can search this up as, for example, my case, how I booked a meeting with a $10 billion company, because that's a personal story with me. And so what I would essentially do, anytime I closed a deal, and anytime that I booked the meeting, I would post exactly how I closed that deal and exactly how I booked that meeting on LinkedIn, like the exact step by step. So that when I started doing that, like from how to how I immediately just started getting a ton of traction on LinkedIn. So I would just say I kind of changed the way that I presented my content, and then I did it every single day. And then it's exhausting. I've been burnt out so many times, but that's how I ended up just continuing to grow and grow at a somewhat fast rate.
Yeah, I want to definitely learn about this, how you systematized it. But what you just explained is what Alex Hermosi has been talking about. So did you get that idea for a how to how I? Was that something you discovered from him, or you just stumbled upon that idea?
No, I don't follow him much. I know who he is,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
actually don't. I wish I could say I follow these gurus, but I don't follow anybody. And I have a coach that is unknown, and he just helps me with the CEO life and stuff. But no, in my opinion, it's like the only way that you can stand out is being
Mm-hmm.
yourself. And so I was like, I'm just going to literally tell people what I'm doing that's working.
Yeah.
That was my
I
idea.
think that Alex's logic for that is when you say how to, you're actually just telling them as if you are this guru that knows how to get done, but nobody can question how you did it, right? If how I did it, they can't question it because you actually executed it, saw the results, and you're just expressing your experience, right? Like you're sharing your knowledge. So that's why he thinks is a much better approach than teaching people how to's.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you said you have, at least you try not to miss posting twice a day. But what's your system in place in terms of strategizing and ideating? Obviously, I see some of them are videos, some of them are graphic and text posts. There's some thought goes into it, right? Not just, oh, I just got off of a sales call, let me but post it. But how have you systematized it so you're actually being very efficient in how you're able to do this?
Yeah, so it's funny. The way that I post is whatever I think of that morning, I post. Whatever I think of that
Mm-hmm.
afternoon, I post. But there is a little bit of a system, right? I'm not just going to
Mm-hmm.
post anything and everything. So there's essentially, back in the day, there was like 4 or 5 things that I posted about. Now there's really 3 things that I post about, and it's entrepreneurship, like just building in public. It's sales, and then it's sometimes I'll also post about like getting a job necessarily, because I was able to go out and get the 2 jobs that I've always wanted just from like proactively reaching out to the sales manager. So I post about that kind of stuff too, but I'm mainly just post build in public and sales tips. That's what I post. Now, what I will say is I actually ran some analytics on all of my LinkedIn posts recently because I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to see what performs and what doesn't. For me, I make image posts, I make video posts, and I make text posts. The
Mm-hmm.
text-based posts by far outperform anything else. And like I think I have many text-based posts with like thousands of reactions and hundreds of thousands of impressions, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't have one video in the thousands of reactions. I don't have one image with the thousands of reactions. So like for me, it's more so like how do I just switch it up so I'm not only doing text-based posts, but what I will say is from a system perspective, and something that a lot of people have issues with is like, how do I find what to post about? How do I continue to find things to post about? I break it down into topics, right? For sales, I have prospecting, I have moving
Mm-hmm.
a sales cycle forward, I have like creative outreach, I have social selling, or whatever it is, right? I have 4 different pillars, and then I just break it down, right? For example, prospecting, you have cold email prospecting, cold calling, video prospecting, in person prospecting. So what I then do is I have a pillar, I break it down
Mm-hmm.
into sub pillars, I break those sub pillars down into personal stories. So how I made a video that led to a 200K deal is one of the things I post about, and how I made a video to move a deal cycle along is one another thing that I post about. So I just kind of take these little pillars and then I expand it and I expand it. It's like the spider web effect. The next thing
Mm-hmm.
we have 60 things to post about. But if you post about it with an image, if you make a
Mm-hmm.
video about it and you do a text post, now you have 180 things to post about because you have 3 different ways that you can post it. So that's kind of like the
Yeah.
system behind my
Yeah, that's really
LinkedIn
good.
stuff.
And then are you, do you have some help in terms of how those videos are getting edited? I'm assuming that's not something you're investing your energy in. You have somebody else that's taking care of your videos, but you take the ownership on the idea, creation of it, and then just obviously publishing it.
I do everything aside
Oh,
from
wow.
one. Yeah, I do it all. And actually, right before we jumped on this, I was editing a
Mm,
pod. I have a video that I'm posting on LinkedIn right after this. I have to finish
wow.
editing it. Yeah. And so I'm going to post about it every Friday. I do 5 tech picks on Friday where I just shout out 5 technologies that are on Dimmo. So I do it all. But there was one time where I was flown out to get professional videos
Mm,
done. I didn't do anything for that besides talk. But yeah,
mhm.
every other video. So 90% of my videos, I make it, I edit it, I make it sound good, and then I post it. But I
Wow.
did just look at a video editing company yesterday because it is
Mhm.
taking up way too much time.
Yeah, there you go, man. Nobody has any excuse. You're over here publicly building a company, meanwhile creating social content, which is amazing, and editing your own videos. So let's talk a little bit about building a company, right? You said from the day one you posted, you had a pretty substantial response, and you started getting almost 300 people wanting to put their company on your platform. And so you said you had 15 companies already paying from almost day one before you opened the door.
Yeah, yeah, just selling the story. I sold the
Mm-hmm.
story. Yeah,
Yeah. So that's like I've heard stories of people saying sell it before you even actually build it, right? You almost validated that there was a demand for it because you were doing demo days where people were actually paying you for it. So what are some experiences that you think have helped you to build this company a lot better than the other prior startups that you've had?
Yeah, I think a couple things. One, I had a strong technical co-founder, so I think that's huge. Even the one before, actually, referral that I sold, that
Mhm.
was my most successful one before Dimmo. We ended up getting to around 50K in ARR, 15 annual customers and stuff. So that was all on the side of just running, being a sales rep, an enterprise sales rep. So what I've realized is people will pay for a damn good story. Like that's
Mm.
just what I have learned. And
Mm.
so if you paint the what if, like what if we built this? Would you pay for this? And so for example, I can be very transparent. What we did for our 15 customers in the beginning was say, hey, look, you can get the platform forever for $5 to
Mm.
$20 a month. That's nothing. Some customers are 20, some are 5. That's nothing. That's pennies. And we provide leads to people. So one lead nowadays in software is like $200. So that's, but I said, however, you need to give us an upfront fee of anywhere from $500 to $1,000. And again, it was different depending on the early access customer. And
Mhm.
that's what they did. So a lot of them, we were able to get like $8,000 from early access customers. We didn't
Mhm.
need it because we weren't paying ourselves. It was a side gig. But what I've essentially learned is like, you can make revenue pretty easily if you just ask people for money and sell like an idea. I don't know. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, I think that actually validates your idea. It has merit too, right? Because if you're able to get people to see a value in what you're building and they're willing to part ways with money, that also says something about the idea having some value.
Yeah.
That's one way to do it. So
Yep.
clearly that has led you to doing that. So having a very technical founder, selling before the product actually even existed, what other things have you done to just get more of a snowball effect to grow?
Yeah, dude. So there's a couple things. One, I tell everybody this. Like
Mhm.
anybody building a software company right now and their ICP somewhat lives on LinkedIn, just talk about it. I had a call this morning and a call yesterday.
Mhm.
2 people. One of my favorite things ever is like letting people pitch their ideas to me and then I poke holes in it or I tell them like this is how I'd go to market for it. Because some of
Mhm.
them's not LinkedIn worthy. If you're building a cybersecurity company or an IT company, they're not super lively on LinkedIn, right? I'd
Mhm.
go Twitter or something like that or X, whatever you
Mhm.
call it. So for me, like this whole snowball effect was, I think it's twofold. It's one, our LinkedIn audiences. So together, her and I, the co-founder and I, have around 120,000 followers. I generate like 1 million impressions a month. So that's damn. Most of my stuff is demo related, but I always
Mhm.
tie it back to a story. So like, damn, like you can create much more, or you can have much more conversations through cold calling. You're not doing cold calling good enough, et cetera, et cetera. Hey, you should use this tool. It helps, and that tool's on demo. So that's kind of like this whole snowball effect thing that I do for demo. So I think one of them is our
Mhm.
LinkedIn audience, but I think another one is I think it might be luck. I think it might be
Mhm.
luck, or I think it might be it's luck or right place at the right time, whatever you want to call it, luck or right place at
Mhm.
the right time. And what I mean by that for us is it was very clear of 3 things. One, outbound is dying. Two, most sales reps weren't hitting quota. And three, buyers have been wanting to find a way to buy without being forced into a sales cycle. They go leverage their network or they go to G2 or they go to Trust Radius. There's all these things that they do. It's very clear that the way buying is going is heavily favoring the buyer versus the seller. So that's when I was like, you know what, let's just make it even easier for them. So I think it was a little mix of that LinkedIn. And then also, if you just help people, they help you. I'm a strong believer in just help without asking for anything in return, and it will come back and pay off. And I think that's been true for my case.
Yeah, I think Zig Ziglar said it best, right? If you help enough people get what they want in life, you will get all the things you want in life.
Yeah.
You mentioned G2, you mentioned Trustpilot, and I think there's several other review sites out there. What obviously, as you're building this company, there's already very established review websites focused strictly on the B2B audience. What was your thought process going after some of those giants? I think, if I'm not mistaken, they're already in the hundreds of millions of dollars already in revenue, if not more, for G2. What were
Mhm.
your thoughts when you're actually saying, "Hey, I'm up against some giants in the space"?
The demand's already there, and I don't need to
Mhm.
create it, and I won't
Mhm.
worry about them until I need to. That's very bluntly put. It's just it was like we have this following. We have people that
Mhm.
are genuinely rooting for us, and we have people that want to see a new way of doing things. And for me, the very first company that I created and sold, it was called Vocal, and it was in a space that nobody has ever heard of. Like at the time, it was the business. This was 5 years ago. It was the business professional OnlyFans, and
Mhm.
so essentially, it was like masterclass. But instead, you can go pay for 5 minutes of call it Gary Vaynerchuk's time. We didn't have them on the platform, but those kind of
Mhm.
people with large business followings, you can pay them for increments, small increments of their time. And the hard part about that is we had to build demand for that because that wasn't a thing. It wasn't just like,
Mhm.
wait, what? I can go. And Cameo was just now getting started, and that was somewhat similar, but I will never, if Dimmo sells or fails and I build something else, I will never build something where the demand isn't already there again.
So the guys that are on LinkedIn that are talking about creating demand, creating awareness, what do you speak to that? Because I know some things like you're solving a problem that existed, but your product wasn't something that people heard of before. So you're still kind of creating awareness for your brand. So what do you
Yeah.
speak to that though?
Oh, so it's a little different. So awareness, I think honestly is the most. I was talking, who was I with? I was on my coaching call yesterday and I said, I want eyeballs. And he said, why do you want eyeballs? And I said, because in my mind, eyeballs, so awareness. I said, in my mind, eyeballs is currency. That's just, it's so hard to stand out above the noise these days, regardless if you're selling, regardless if you're coming out of the market with a new product. Good luck going to build another sales engagement platform and trying to get more eyeballs and sales off and outreach. That's just, it's tough, right? And so for me, all I care about is generating awareness for the most part, demand creation. The generation will come at some point, but at first I need to create not demand, because demand's already there. People wanting to buy software and people needing to buy software, companies run on software. You need to evaluate software to do your job these days. That's already there. So what I'm trying to do is just say, hey, there's just a new way. You can just go to one place and look it up. So the way that I look at it is like, I need to create as much awareness as possible, but I don't want for demo specifically, not for evaluating software without sales. That's again, I think that's already out there. People wish they could. So for me, it's just like, how do I be loud on a budget? That's what I'm going for.
Yeah. So obviously a lot of CEOs aren't thinking the way that you do, right? A lot of them are, I don't know, like private about what they're doing, and they don't want their competitors to know what they're up to. So they're kind of keeping some of those things a secret. What advice would you give those entrepreneurs? Either they've been established business, have pretty successful business, but they've never used their platform or audience to really grow the awareness and reach.
Yeah, so the advice that I'd give there is one really interesting statistic. Again, I told you I ran some analytics on all of my LinkedIn posts, and I looked at everything from the top down, like how much I'm worth based on LinkedIn and stuff like that. And so in the month of September alone, the amount of impressions that I had generated just through LinkedIn post, again, this is free. All it takes is my time, and it doesn't take much time to make a post anymore. Through my post alone, I generated $27,000 in media value. So if I were to go spend $27,000 in September, that's how I would have gotten that many impressions and that much engagement. And then in October, I'm generating 32,000 of earned media value. So it's like I'm posting. That's all I'm doing. I haven't spent $1 on paid ads. I haven't, like, our marketing person literally yesterday was like, hey, can I please spend money? And I gave her $1,000 because I was like, I'm generating so much money. And that's nothing. $1,000 in paid ads is not going to get you far, especially for a
No.
business like ours. The biggest advice is one thing is like people are scared that somebody's going to take their idea. And at the end of the day, 99% chance no one's going to go and take your idea, build it, run with it, and execute better. That's just, I think that's a whole facade. I think it's I don't know. I don't believe in that whole thing. It's very rare that somebody will actually take your idea, build it, and make it successful. That's one thing. I mean, the second thing is if you really don't want to talk about your company publicly, talk about what your company does, but don't relate it back to your company. So for example, if you're trying to build like the next prospecting tool, just talk about how challenging it is to book meetings, or talk about how outbound the way today is dying. There's ways to talk about your product, but not about your product, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, so it basically make people aware of the problem so they
Yep.
start seeking for help, which naturally could lead to your solution being the ultimate option, right? Because if you've kind of done the education part, they kind of trust you to help them solve it. And obviously, like you said $27 to $32,000 in media value. What was like the rough cost per thousand you were looking at in terms of cost per impression
Yeah.
to compute that?
So what I was looking at was a $35 CPM.
So you just roughly from impression standpoint, yeah. That's just one way to even value, right? But what about just the increasing conversion because people actually saw your content and their likelihood of converting is a lot higher. Your closing percentage would go up. There's a lot more than just eyeballs. And I think I'm with you on that. I think eyeballs or attention is currency today, and it's a lot harder to get it today than ever before because the amount of distractions that we're all faced with is just enormous.
Yeah.
So clearly you've successfully figured out how to reach your audience, create awareness, get interest, and then now obviously monetizing it. So what are some advice you have for like software companies that are just getting founded? Platforms like YouTube, Trustpilot, or whatever platforms, leveraging that as a way to reach their end customers. What advice would you give them in terms of getting in front of the buyers?
Yeah. So are you saying specifically if they were to get on one of our platforms, or are you saying in general, like
Yeah,
just
because
getting
a
in
lot
front?
of times they just resort strictly to cold outreach to initially get some traction and selling, or they start writing some blogs, hoping that gets them some customers. And hopefully some of the CEOs are like you, or proactively creating content and sharing some of their knowledge. But obviously leveraging platform like yours that already have an audience to get in front of prospective buyers who may or may not be thinking. Because I'm thinking of AppSumo, for example, right? A lot of times I see products that AppSumo would list for a lifetime value, lifetime price of $150. When you go to their website, is $300 a month. But if we were in for AppSumo, I would never have heard of those guys, right? And then I just discovered it. So just the value of platforms like yours in reaching audience that may not be accessible to them.
Yeah. So I think one of those is some advice there, and the way that I put it, and there's even customers where I point them. This happened last time I got a haircut. I was literally at the haircut place, and so maybe 4 weeks ago, I don't remember. But he reached out to me and saying, "Hey, I just raised a round. Should I spend money on you or should I spend money on G2?" And so there's a reason why I'm saying this. I told him G2 because at the end of the day, G2 gets millions of unique visitors every single month. We're going up and to the right. We're getting more and more. But if you're not, especially on Dimmo right now, like it's completely free to be on Dimmo. So that's one advice, is take as much free stuff as you possibly can as a startup, like all those trials, everything like that, like SEMrush, take all that free stuff. But for Dimmo, it's completely free to be on our website and to get page views and to get video clicks and demo clicks. Who doesn't at an early stage want free exposure? Same with G2. Now, if you're free on G2, it's really hard to be found because they have so many technologies, and it's essentially, I wouldn't say it's pay to play, but I would say you're not going to come out today and spend no money and be on the top of G2. That's just not the way that it works. So I would say, one, leverage as many free areas as you possibly can. Make a listing on all of them. Like there's nothing will ever hurt you by making a listing. And then two, like I think if you can help drive traffic to the company that you're listing on, they're going to favor you. Like for us, like it would be great if people drove traffic and I'd shout them out in post and things like that. And so that's what I would say is like, that's what they care about. Our companies where we aggregate a bunch of technology into one place, we care about site traffic. That's really the main thing. Revenue comes with that. So it's just, how do you want to play that partnership, but also focus on swim in your own lane, right? If for example, LinkedIn is working, I'm going to continue doing LinkedIn because 90% of our revenue comes from my posts and people finding out about me on LinkedIn. I'm going to continue doing that versus going to spend $20K a month on ads because I know I'm going to get a higher ROI posting on LinkedIn. So same thing, if cold calling is working best for you, double down on cold calling, even if it's annoying, if LinkedIn or if cold email is, etc.
Yeah, there's some really good advice there. So obviously you've had multiple successful exits. You're building a company successfully. You're actually seeing a positive momentum. You're learning a lot. You've actually learned how to make money when you were a kid, selling I think you said your grandpa's goodies from the closet. So you've kind of figured out how to make money. From knowing all you've taught yourself and learned from life, what advice would you give younger Troy?
I'll take the risk earlier. Who knows? Who knows what could have been with the other things if I just said, screw it, give me 6 months, and take the risk when you don't have kids. I have a kid and another on the way, and now it's much more important to put food on the table. But back then it was just like, I could have gotten rid of my alcohol expense, and then just maybe build something big. So yeah, for me, I would just say take the risk earlier, and also don't be scared to ask for money. It's whether that's an investment, whether that's a customer, just ask for money. That's fine. The worst you're going to get is a no.
Would you have done anything differently from some of the choices you've made, other than the fact that you probably shouldn't have joined?
Yeah, good old party. Those are college days. Would I have done anything differently? I would have started posting earlier on LinkedIn, to be honest. That's it. So I'm sure that if I sat here and you gave me 10 minutes to think, I could think of other things. But I think of where I'm at today. I'm like, man, I feel like I've done decently well, and I feel like I'm very lucky and fortunate to be where I'm at. And so it's hard to think about what I would do differently. But I know that I probably jumped in on this LinkedIn game maybe a year or two too late.
I think that's my key takeaway too, because I know what I need to do, but I'm just not doing it at the scale that you've been able to do to see success. Troy, I certainly enjoyed our conversation. Thank you so much for sharing some of your life lesson and some stories of how you've been able to build a company that's growing rapidly. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Sam.
This episode of Coffee with Closers is brought to you by One IMS, a leading digital marketing agency helping businesses win new customers. To request a free marketing ROI audit, please visit oneims.com. If you enjoyed this video, please share it. To make sure you never miss an episode, please subscribe.